Welcome to the beginning of a series I'm calling, What Were You Thinking? Now, I'm going to go back a little bit. I've got a history of working with brush structures. It's a kind of a fascination of mine, even though I'm primarily a stone carver. So this is another base I have. This piece, the original piece, I made 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And this was the first broom I made, just kind of feeling things out. That's what I'll do. You know, if I'm not sure of something, I might make a couple of warm-up pieces. So, you know, this was one of them. This is just a new piece. I'm going to make another brush. And I'll make another, and I'm going to make another whole assembly. So let's put that away for a second, and then, you know, just kind of get on to explain the brushes a little more. There's another one that I started back then, but until recently, I hadn't completed. You know, I had gotten as far as that, you know, and you know, at the time, I needed to go out and buy a broom to make a broom. In fact, I had to buy a couple of brooms to make a broom because they're made in layers. If you take one apart, there's like more of a flat reed on the inside of the broom, and then these kind of, you know, squiggly things on the outside. You know, so to get these outside pieces, you know, like I had to take a, and then you got the little indentations from the rope, and that just, you know. So I ended up, when I started thinking about making some more brushes, you know, and actually doing it, not thinking about it because I've been thinking about it for years, doing something with a not-for-profit in town. So, you know, like, well, you know, let me start up back again, you know, and let's do it a little, you know, a little more organized this time. So I found a supplier of broom straw, you know, and, you know, I could get a, you know, 10-pound box of it. I guess the shipping costs a lot more than the broom straw itself. And this is what is sold to make brooms. And this would be a broom corn. It's not corn. This is a sorghum. This is what's left over after the sorghum's harvested. You know, all the seeds are, you know, growing up in here, and then, you know, they thresh it out. You know, and they got all this stuff left over because sorghum's a pretty big crop. You know, so, you know, who knew? Well, I mean, you know, some people knew. I didn't. So, you know, like I say, that's what, you know, like I got, and then I can, you know, I can make a new one. You know, so that's a, you know, that's a completed piece. Although I haven't finished polishing it and signing it yet, it's done. Yeah. Now, on to what we're working on, what I'm working on now. Now, I like the broom. You know, like I had the broom straw coming in, so, you know, and I'm like, well, what else am I going to do with it? I had 10 pounds of it. You know, what the hell? So I'm hunting around in a Goodwill, you know, one of the ones I usually stop by here in Tucson, you know, and I found this. You know, and, you know, I liked the shape. I didn't even, first, you know, I didn't even know what it was. And then I was like, okay, it's an OXO, it's an OXO. So it's a napkin holder. Put the napkins in there, you'll pull one out and all the others fall out. Which is kind of, must be why, you know, they don't sell them anymore. You know, and I've never seen them anyplace. So either they didn't do too good or, you know, and you can't find them on eBay. Not that, you know, like originally a $14 item is, you know, going to be elevated to that kind of status. So I found this, and I'm thinking, well, you know, I have that as the base to a broom that's coming up and, you know, squaring off. And, you know, I like the idea. I got the broom straw in, and, you know, then I started, you know, playing around with it a little more, and I'm like, well, you know, how about if I do something like this? You know, put, you know, like, I mean, I'm still thinking of tying it together as if it was a broom. You know, the green thread, you know, the ubiquitous green thread. I mean, it seems to always be green thread, you know, which kind of works. And this, you know, I mean, it's nice, but, you know, there's no real consistency down here, and, you know, getting everybody to, you know, have one continuous smooth transition. That, and I kind of like this, you know, stepping here. You know, so it looks almost windblown. I'm from Long Island. You know, the end of Long Island is Montauk, where I've spent a lot of time. So there's a lot of that sea motion. There's a lot of that, you know, grass flying in the wind. But, you know, like I say, I'm not too thrilled with it being, you know, a broom anymore. You know, even though that would, you know, reference, you know, whatever. But, you know, I've learned, you know, don't push stuff. You know, if you push it, it's not going to look right. I mean, you can take a couple of things that don't go together, but if they fit together, it's great. You know, but you can't force it. I mean, you know, you can't just like, okay, well, I'm going to make it that says, you know, that's like a design thing, and then you got to compensate here, and you got to compensate there. So, you know, the idea is, you know, like I think with art is, you know, try to get that purity of vision. You know, don't confuse things too much unless that's your original intention, which I've been known to dabble in the past. So I didn't like that idea, you know, and I'm thinking, well, okay, you know, get them more together, you know, get this as one smooth, you know, mass coming up. But, you know, to do that, you know, either tying it as a broom, you know, or anything, I have to go above the support reed. So I'm taking 6 inches off right there. You know, and I don't, you know, if you're used to seeing it that high and that's what your vision is, you know, you lop off 6 inches and it's like, well, what happened to my sculpture? So, yeah, so I wasn't too enthused about it, you know, getting cut down to size. So then I'm like, okay, what do I do? Put something in here to raise it up, and then just, you know, the reeds won't be going that deep into it. I'm like, okay, you know, that's not bad. You know, and then I'm hunting around my wood pile and, you know, looking, and I know I got some black walnut in there someplace, you know, so I could have had something dark. You know, and I think I got some wenge around here too. So, but, you know, I'm hunting around and I found this, I believe it's called a kuru. And when I first got it, I thought it was, you know, Asian basin. It turns out it's an African hardwood. You know, beautiful red, you know, real glossy finish just from planing it down. First time I used it for a base, I mean, you know, it just really set the piece off nicely, but I couldn't breathe for days after doing the base. And I'm like, at first I didn't know what was going on, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, what is this wood? You know, like I say, I thought it was an Asian base. I thought it was like a mahogany or a Paduke, something like that. No, African hardwood, you know, like asthma, this, that, boy, it took me days to be able to breathe again. Okay, so, you know, had to bring this down a little bit to begin to fit into the concave. I mean, one of the things, if I really was industrious, was to go out and get a piece, you know, that's what, you know, like an 8-4, you know, 2 inches plus thick, I would guess at this point, you know, and then bring that down to size. Exactly, I mean, like, you know what, no, I'm not, you know, no, I'm not going that far, you know. So there's that. And that looks pretty good. Yeah, this has got to come down a little bit. You know, of course, we'll center this here. These are just to, you know, keep them separate, so it's starting to have just one big pile I got to sort through to get that, you know. And then when it dries, well, you'll see. You know, there'll be a little bit of a curve as if the, you know, the wind was actually going there. My problem now, is that I like this green against the red. I mean, you know, that's really, That's pretty, I mean, these are dirty. You know, there's still all farm rot, you know, like in junk. So, you know, these reeds really do need to be cleaned. You know, and, you know, maybe oiled a little bit, but then you've got this, you know, this beautiful, subtle, you know, green transition going up. You know, what happens over time, you know, it definitely will fade. You know, the more sun it gets, you know, the quicker it'll fade. You know, which is, if I want to turn it yellow, I just take it when it's finished and, you know, leave it outside for a little bit of time. Yeah, like I say, once these go and I fill in some of the gaps left over from that, you know, these little spaces between there, you know, this will be a smooth transition, you know, moving all the way up. But, you know, we shall see. You know, and then I got to figure out too is, how am I going to attach this? Because if you just go over and start picking stuff out, we're getting down to the final phases in this piece. I've installed all of the broom straw and also epoxied them into place, which means that I can't screw up unless I want to go through a lot of work. So this is pretty touchy from here on in, because I want to try to get these in a position where they really are coming up straight. You know, and now they're kind of rumbling around, doing a little twist, doing a little that, and it still needs to be cleaned. There's still farm dirt all over. So, oh, I heard this more on the radio. Sorghum seeds, 19,000 years in storage they'll last. This is one of the earliest grains. And, you know, and I still, so final work, you know, not that this has anything to do with the ideas, but this has got to be brushed smooth and get the, I don't know, maybe I'm not going to take out the OXO. Yeah, that could, yeah, no, I think that's going to stay in there. A little bit of humor is, you know, just to break it from being a total minimalist, you know, contemplation. Yeah, and, you know, with that final, I have to try to get everything coming up, you know, smooth and square, for as long as, you know, I'm not going to obsess over it as my usual want. And no, I think it's going to look pretty good. Yeah, not you know, you start making 10,000 of them and sell them on Etsy, right? Well, that's going to wrap it up for this installation of What Were You Thinking? Of What Were You Thinking?